What is up, Edison Duel? This is Dionysus, aka Young Puds, coming at you guys with some shameless hype beast Gigavise content. And this is a video that I've been putting off for quite some time, but I think the day has finally come to go ahead and make it. This is a request from an entire month ago from big time channel subscriber Talisman Hayes, who asks, hey, can you make a video against Machina? Dog, yes, I can. But before we jump into the video, I do want to ask all of you guys to please subscribe if you have not already subscribed, and let me know that you did so in a comment, maybe. You don't have to do that, but subscribing, super mandatory. Anyways, folks, let's jump into the games. This first is a replay that I have from a little bit ago against none other than Oscar Zelaya of Legacy Retro Formats himself. This is one of the channels that started popping up in my YouTube algorithm that really got me interested in playing Edison format. He's posting really high quality recordings of live in-person duels all the time. It's super interesting, super good content. So I'm sure you guys know about it, but if you don't, definitely go ahead and check it out. So we're going to start off with a okay hand. I see supervise, Gigaplant, but we are going to run into a heavy storm. So we're just going to go ahead and flip up that threatening roar. We are going to lose the Regeki break. However, it looks like our opponent here is not opening particularly strong either and going for a little bit of a conservative push with just setting Dandelion, likely maybe trying to get some tokens going for Cyber Valley, or not wanting to overcommit the gear frame because you wouldn't be able to summon the fortress right away. I think that's perfectly fine. So we're going to go ahead and upstart and draw into a Dandelion of our own. We're just going to pass. I'm really not wanting to set the Dandelion without anything more going on here. Meanwhile, our opponent is going to draw a second gear frame, and this one is going to get normal summoned. We're just going to take 1800 damage straight to the face. So, the Machina matchup is really interesting because I feel like it is a favored matchup. However, if you are opening slow or they just happen to have too much interruption, it is really tough because they'll have some certain hands where they're just getting a fortress going early and you're just not able to play out of it. It's too much, So here we're going to go for the Lone Fire, and we'll go Lone Fire into Gigaplant, and not a big surprise that is going to get bottomless. We do have Mark of the Rose Tribute Summon Gigaplant for a nice follow-up. Here we are going to see a Lone Fire Blossom come out. This is like a quick draw Machina deck. I think that's definitely one of the higher ceilings of the Machina decks. So the two Lone Fires are going to get cycled through, and then that is going to bring out a Titanial, which is actually going to be a really big problem for us, especially now that that Dandelion has been flipped up. I was operating under the assumption that it was like a Raikou or something. Of course, it was not. So we're going to take a ton of damage, and then we are going to find our way to Brain Control. I'm outing myself. This is a little bit of an older list. We are still playing, I think, like the Cyber Valley package with the main decked BrainCon, MindCon. So we're going to have to play a little tricky because we're not just going to be able to Mark of the Rose to get the Gigaplant on the field. So we're going to go ahead for Miracle Fertilizer, and then I'm going to realize that, well, we don't have any Gigaplants to get going, and he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 negates if you count the Titanial. So that's just too much for us to push through. So we're going to go ahead and side and go right into game 2. We're opening nice here with that 1-for-1. Always happy to see that, and a couple hidden armories. And even better, we are going to mill a Dandelion off of hidden armory. So this is, hands like this are where the Cyber Valley package feels really strong. There's really no two ways about it. This is a fantastic thing. So that last game, you saw that Machina, like, they were able to establish a board and interrupt us. We didn't have any any way to play through the interruption. So they are a threatening deck. I do think the biggest problem is they're a deck that they really want to leave a fortress on the field, and it's so easy to Colossal Fighter Armory Arm them. That's really how I feel. And obviously, we lost to the single bottomless there, but the deck usually isn't playing a ton of back row. It's usually enough that you can chew through it or just find a sweeper and out it pretty easy. So I feel like Machina is one of the decks that we have an easier time pushing our combo through and resolving an OTK against. So I would consider it a favored matchup, but honestly, recently, last night in particular, I ran into 2 or 3 Machina decks and just got completely dusted by them. It wasn't even an interesting, it was just completely dunked on. So for that reason, I'd probably consider it maybe like a 60-40, 65-35 favored matchup. Anyways, here we do have the Dust Shoot and the Mark of the Rose and the DDR, so I was choosing to open with the Power Tool line, and then against Machina, it's really important. You usually want to put the Titanial in defense. Obviously, they can make Goyo if they have like Plague Spreader zombie access, but it's a little more difficult for them. So I've found that this is a good way to do it. And then here, super unfortunate, we do mill that third Supervise off of Hidden Armory. So, you know, I always love to be getting a Supervise out of the graveyard. It just feels like I'm getting an extra card, and it's super, super good. But what can you do? We're just going to set the Dust Shoot and pass, and then we are going to go ahead and Dust Shoot into that big hand full of a ton of monsters. Looking at this hand, you know, I could do the Lone Fire Blossom, because obviously, you know, Titanial can come down and crash over my Titanial, but we have the Mark of the Rose. He doesn't have another way to put another plant up, and I think dealing with Fortress might actually be a little tougher. So I decided to get rid of Gear Frame. Gear Frame also represents a good amount of card advantage, and we want to stop that. So then, as predicted, Lone Fire Blossom is going to come out and make a Titanial, and no surprise to anyone, he's going to go ahead and run over the Power Tool Dragon. I think that makes sense too, just wanting to stop us from getting a bunch of free advantage. Obviously, he doesn't know that we already have all the equips we could want in our hand, so I think that's a pretty fine play. But of course, that is going to open the door for us to possibly crash the Titanial, or even better, just Mark of the Rose to out it. You know, if he gives it to us, he loses, so he's forced to negate it. That's the kind of thing where I'm happy, always happy to do that. Like Mark of the Rose, it just traded 1-for-1 with a really, really big threat. That's good enough for me. Anyways, now we can go ahead and Lone Fire to bring back Nettles, and then just Synchro Summon for a big level 8. Just got to go for Brute Drago. We've seen his hand. We know that he doesn't have Gores, so that is going to be that. So pretty commanding game 1 for our opponent, and pretty commanding game 2 for me. Let's see how game 3 shakes out. I really like these Dweller sleeves. Those look good. And as you can see, folks, we are already in trouble. That is Needle Sealing, which I don't see this card sided in against me a lot, but frankly, it's a really big problem. I think the biggest downside of it is, while it's usually unexpected, like people flip up Needle Sealing and I'm like, oh wow. I'm usually playing around Torrential anyways. Now here, this is a really good opportunity for Needle Sealing to be really good, because he's going to use this Torrential, and then I'm going to say, oh, well, Torrential's gone, I don't have to play around Torrential anymore, and then I could walk right into Needle Sealing, which could be pretty catastrophic. So we're going to get a Card Trooper going just to start milling, and I am going to find my 2 tokens. So we're going to draw. We do find a Lone Fire Blossom, which I am just going to go right ahead and commit to the field and try and start comboing. You know, we could have tried Cyber Valley or something like that, but we have the Supervise, you know, blood in the water, right, folks? So we are going to go ahead and get Torrential, but that is okay, because we have the Hidden Armory to get us a Mark of the Rose, which will go with the DDR, discard Copy Plant, and we have a way right back into our combo, no problem. Our opponent is picking up a DD Crow, so that's even more very scary interruption, I'm not going to lie to you, folks. And continuing on with the theme of scary, scary things, he is going to pick up that Machina Force. So got a pretty stacked hand, lots and lots he could do. He could even, you know, use the quick draw to summon Fortress and then have Force kind of threatening in the background, but he is just going to set the Needle Sealing and pass. Nice conservative play, nothing wrong with that. And then we are going to find our way into Mark of the Rose, just like I said. Banish the Lone Fire, steal the Gear Frame, discard the Copy Plant for Lone Fire Blossom, and we are just playing absolutely fearlessly here. Because, hey, you know, Torrential's gone. No reason not to go wide and really extend right away here, right? And so we get our Power Tool Dragon out. and Supervise is going to activate. We are going to get our Power Tool Dragon effect off, which is really nice. That's the silver lining with Needle Sealing, is that we're at least getting to resolve a few more effects. And then we are going to go ahead and Gigaplant, summon out Lone Fire, and then go for Nettles here, trying to threaten a Stardust to prevent any kind of Mirror Force type shenanigans. And in fact, we are going to get stopped there, and our opponent is going to go ahead and fire the Needle Sealing before we can make Stardust. So that's definitely a little unfortunate for us. But the good news is that we do have that other hidden armory, so we can just go ahead and pick up a Supervise and continue making plays, continue establishing a board. Probably not going to be able to OTK or anything like that. I decided I don't want to risk it with only one Supervise left in deck, and that's a good thing because this line ends up playing around Crow. So we are going to get in for a ton of damage here, getting our opponent down to 2,800. Just you know, threatening one more push from Titanial, and that'll do it. Also, now that I've seen Needle Sealing, I am going to be aware of that, so I'm going to be able to try and play around a second Needle Sealing. Our opponent's going to pick up that Dandelion, which is really fantastic with the Quick Draw Synchron, so we're going to see some Quick Draw plays. He's going to go ahead and make Nitro Warrior. What a fantastic card. And then beef up its attack points to 3,800. Getting over the Supervise. That is going to let us bring back a Gigaplant, so a little more board presence. Even if he does go ahead and summon out the Fortress, that would stop it, but that is going to get hit with DD Crow. So you know, good try for us, right? But ultimately not quite enough, and now our field is just going to get completely wiped. We'll take 1,100 damage, so we've still got a little life points left, but we are definitely on the ropes here. So we pick up a Mark of the Rose, however, which is a really fantastic pickup, going especially well with Cyber Valley. So we're going to think really carefully about how we want to do this, and ultimately I decide to take the Fortress. I deem that to be the biggest threat, and then all I have to do, easier said than done, is like find the third hidden armory or find the Brain Control hidden in my deck, and then I can take the Nitro Warrior and try and swing for game. Not quite getting that. Instead we find a Vortex and Fertilizer. A little risky here, but I do decide to just pass. I want to win with the Fertilizer. I want to go like Lightning Vortex, clear the monster, Fertilizer for Titanial. That seems just like the most direct way to win. And for that reason, I want to hold my Fert. There's no Fortress in the graveyard, and he doesn't have any cards in his hand, so he's not going to be able to just, you know, put another Fortress out. If this is return set, we're in trouble. But a little secret about me, folks, I always forget return exists, and I usually fail to play around it. What can I say? So he's going to go ahead and upstart. That is going to increase Nitro Warrior by 1,000 attack points, so that'll offset the life gain. We are going to take 1,000 damage. He is going to set the 1-for-1, which I read as a bluff. Then you can just very cleanly close this game out. We'll Lightning Vortex the Nitro Warrior, Miracle for Titanial, and then swing on in for game. So GG to our opponent, Oscar Zelaya of Legacy Retro Formats. I think in the chat after this, I even say you should post this one on YouTube. This is before I had the YouTube channel, so I saw it never got posted, so dog, what could I say? I just had to post it myself. Anyways, let's jump into this next matchup. This is against another variant of Machina. This is one that you'll see much more commonly. This is Hamster Raikou Caius, and I think like we all know how to play against HRC these days. If you don't, you know, what are you doing? We're gonna Gold Sark here for Supervise. We have Trap Dust Shoot, which is going to let us look at any potential back row coming, and then Raigeki Break to deal with the most important one. So I'm feeling pretty okay. And then, of course, reading that this set could be a Raikou. I love doing this. We're just going to set the Dust Shoot and pass. So Raikou's not going to have anything good. And we do always just, you know, if they have the one set like that and you're just setting Dust Shoot, really easy to just not fire it in standby phase. Let them use Raikou, waste their Raikou, chain Dust Shoot. You know, super strong. And also usually, you know, opponents are going to be so excited, they're just going to gun the Raikou anyways. They're just going to, you know, immediately flip it. They're not going to ask standby phase or anything. So they're going to walk into trouble like that. We're going to take a look at our opponent's hand. We're going to see that draw trap. We're going to see the torrential tribute. We're going to decide to get rid of Card Trooper here. I'm not really worried about Caius. I'm not seeing another machine for Fortress other than Card Trooper, and I would rather put back the Card Trooper Fortress. You know, Card Trooper. Honestly, it's low key one of the best cards in the format. That 1900 is big damage. And then our opponent is just going to set one, which we obviously know is Ryko, and then very tricky, choosing to just set one trap. I kind of like that play, keeping us guessing, keeping us on our toes. We are going to go ahead and Dandelion to waste the other Ryko. We'll get 2 tokens up. We're not going to need those tokens for an SSN or anything like that, because we already have our Lone Fire Blossom. And then we're just going to set 2 and pass, holding the Hidden Armory for maybe something a little down the line. So we are going to see Ryko switching to defense, and then we're going to see another card set, and then the Legacy of Yatagarasu activated. So we know 100% this is a torrential. This is just a minor sequencing error that our opponent has made. I think this is something to keep in mind for you guys. Always make sure, if you're flipping a draw trap and you're planning on setting another card, flip the draw trap first, and then shuffle your hand. You know, just no reason to give me that free information. But, of course, I will take it, so... He is just going to go ahead and pass, not even setting the hamster. I don't know, maybe he just plays 2 Ryko. Maybe just doesn't feel like it. You know, I don't really know exactly the reason, but nevertheless, we are going to go ahead and pick up our Supervise, and we are going to Raigeki break, pitching Heavy Storm, and then summon out Lone Fire Blossom. This way, we're going to be able to our Mirror Force, and that is going to be GG. Our opponent is just going to let us move right on into game 2. So, you know, this is pretty common where, like, they see you have combo, they don't really have anything going, and so then they are just going to count on their side deck cards. Here we have both opened really slowly. He's actually choosing to set the Card Trooper. I like that play a lot. It's representing a Ryko, and it's at the very least it'll be a draw. Then here he is going to pick up a Fossil Dyna, which is really abysmal for us. They'll use Card Trooper, get that fantastic mill of Plague Spreader Zombie, and then hit us for big damage with the Fossil Dyna and Trooper. So we have the Book of Moon to answer Dyna. We have the MST. We have 2 Supervises. So if we can find our way, look at that, to a Lone Fire Blossom, we could be in pretty good shape, but we are going to have to contest 2 sets. So a little tricky, but, you know, really nothing you can do but play into it. With the MST here, I'm holding the MST because I want to be able to chain it to Oppression. I don't want to just blind space. Also, if there's something like a Bottomless, right, then we can have DDR to keep us in the game, and then MST the other one. And so he is going to, in fact, Bottomless the Gigaplant. He says Lagman. You know, I think you all saw it. He hit thumbs up with a Gigaplant summon, and then after he sees I have Supervise, he goes ahead and Bottomlesses it. But what are you gonna do? I don't really care. You know, it's hard to be mad when you're about to have a game anyways. So we're gonna DDR to bring back the Gigaplant, equip it with a Supervise, go ahead for Lone Fire Blossom. Whatever we're doing here, we're going to have to include a Stardust Dragon, because of course there's a set Fossil Dyna. So we just want to make sure we have something to answer that. So we'll do Stardust first. I don't want to risk Crow forcing us to, you know, okay, I already made a Power Tool Dragon and the Gigaplant gets crowed. That's no good. So we're going to do it first. And then we are going to go ahead and summon out a Lone Fire Blossom. And then we get the beautiful, this deck is ruining the format. And I say you're welcome. You know, what else can you say to that? You know, I love to see it. Dog, if you had set a Torrential Tribute as well, or even a second Bottomless, this would be a very different situation. But instead, you decided to play around Heavy Storm, and that's going to cost you the game. That is going to cost you the game. He does pick up an extra card, so he's drawing Gear Frame, and he does have the Bottomless and the Torrential. We're going to go ahead and summon the Stardust out in defense position. I really don't want him to be able to go Fortress Crash into Stardust. That would be really catastrophic. You know, getting too much advantage. So if he wants to clear the Stardust with the Fortress, that's fine. I accept it. You can do that. But, you know, I don't want him getting more than he deserves. So he is going to have a really nice crackback here. because of that Plague Spreader zombie going for Fortress and Goyo. So that is going to let him go ahead and Goyo over the Gigaplant. Fortunately, we do have the second Gigaplant in Graveyard, so we can just target that one with Supervise. So he'll steal the one Gigaplant, and we will summon out the other one. So still an okay position. We've got our Gigaplant up. We can normal summon it, and there is a tribute to contest. But fortunately, we find the preferable answer to that, and we go ahead and draw a hidden armory off the top, which gets us back to Supervise, so we can play around that bottomless. We're not normal summoning Gigaplant. We are just going to go ahead and Supervise, and summons are going to be allowed. Lone Fire is going to come out. We are going to priority into Copy Plant, and then here our opponent is going to be forced to go ahead and Torrential, otherwise we would Black Rose. And at the very least now, after Torrential, he can go ahead and bottomless our Gigaplant. Not sure why I switched those up. That was just a sake sequencing error. Here he's going to pick up the Caius that he stacked with Plague, so we are going to get another turn. We find a Trunade. I'm happy with that. Dust Shoot is going to be set. We're going to find a Decree for that, so I'm feeling pretty safe and cozy. However, now our opponent is going to go ahead and find a Machina Force. So Fortress is going to be back in the mix, and we cannot take more than one hit from that. So now we need to draw something really, really good. And we do, in fact, find something really, really good. We find Miracle Fertilizer, which is going to pair so beautifully with that giant Trunade. So we'll pick up our Fertilizer again. Here, I'm just going to go ahead and swing Titanial over, let Titanial die, and then main phase 2, I'm going to use Fertilizer again to summon it back. We could have done something else, like where we summon the Fertilizer target right away, and then we negate with Titanial, but that would mean that we didn't have Fertilizer sticking around for next turn. So if our opponent is unable to out the Titanial, we're going to get another summon off of Fertilizer, which is just that's so good, folks. There's no other way to say it. So here he's going to set his Raikou and set his back row. We will flip Decree to turn that off, and then we do draw a Super Solar Nutrient. We lag out for a moment, and then we are going to go ahead and Miracle Fertilizer to summon out Gigaplant. We are going to go ahead and swing. It is, of course, a Raikou, which we are swiftly going to negate. So that's the end of Fertilizer, but now our opponent really is on the ropes with only 100 life points left. He is going to pick up another Machina Force, and when he summons that Fortress in defense, that is going to let him live. Very threatening too. Even if we kill it, it will take the Titanial down with us. However, we draw that Dandelion, which is, of course, going to let us negate Fortress's effect. And, interesting here, actually, who's at 100 life points? I should have attributed Titanial to negate and kept Dandelion up, and I would have been able to swing for game. But I guess I decided to play a little conservatively. I think that's just objectively wrong, folks. And it is letting our opponent continue to summon back the Fortress. However, we do find another Miracle Fertilizer, so I think this duel really illustrates just how good at top decking Gigavise is. So GG to our opponent, very well played. I do have one more Machina replay. This one is a little more recent. And here you can see we are opening very, very nicely. We have a little defense, we have a sweeper, we have 2 fertilizers, so lots of gas in the tank. Of course, supervised access already. And then Gold Sark is going to find us our Lone Fire Blossom. So really, really great stuff here, folks. And now our opponent is going to draw another DD Crow for turn. These main deck DD Crows, that's some scary stuff. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like seeing that. Here our opponent is going to go ahead and Heavy Storm. Seems good to me. And then summon out a Fortress. So pretty good situation for us to find ourselves. We are getting that Lone Fire Blossom to our hand. We are not dying immediately. However, we are going to have to combo through not 1, but 2 DDs, which could present a serious, serious problem. So here we are going to go ahead and Miracle Fertilizer. Because there's no back row, And because we do have the giant Trunade, if we Miracle Fertilizer to get the Gigaplant to start our combo, that's just going to mean we have considerably higher of a ceiling to work with, and it's going to make it possible for us to go ahead and Colossal Fighter Armory Arm OTK. However, our opponent is going to have the DD Crow. So we are going to go ahead and just start a normal combo line with Lone Fire Blossom. Here our opponent is confused by the admittedly confusing wording of Fertilizer. Since we didn't summon the Gigaplant, we still have our normal summon available. So we can Lone Fire for Gigaplant, equip the Supervise, bring out Lone Fire, and then here we are going to summon the Poppy Plant and go ahead and make Power Tool Dragon. And when we Supervise, that is going to get us hit with the second DD Crow. So now we are just going to Power Tool Dragon for 2 DDRs and a mark. And we do hit a DDR, so lots and lots of options for next turn. I'm kind of just thinking, all right, well, you know, we'll just have to come back and win next turn. Fortunately for us, our opponent does pick up a Caius, so you know, another normal summon could have been GG, but instead we are getting hit with the Rain Con for stealing the Power Tool Dragon, dealing a ton of damage, and this is bringing us below 1,000. So the Caius is going to be able to tribute itself and burn us for game. So close there. Those main deck DD Crows really put in a lot of work. You know, we had a nice Colossal Fighter Armory Arm line, but DD Crow said no. What can you do? And instead, we are going to go into game 2 with not the best hand, folks. I'll admit this is pretty rough. Foolish Burial is really our saving grace, and we do have the Heavy Storm, which could come in clutch. However, I am really recognizing that we are behind. Dandelion is a great pickup there. That is comboing really well with Raigeki Break, and it also means that SSN is just a little more live if we are able to find one. Raiko's going to go ahead and flip. We are going to discard the Dandelion to get 2 tokens out. He's going to chain the Compulse to give himself more gas to Raiko later. So we can be pretty confident that this set is a Raiko, and there's a set Book of Moon to deal with. We do find our way to Supervise, so now we are just looking for a DDR, a Lone Fire Blossom, one of 3 SSNs, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, plus 3 Hidden Armory, 10. And then, honestly, even Gigaplant isn't a terrible draw if he's not able to clear both tokens. So 11, 12, over a third of our deck lets us keep comboing. Yeah, especially with Mark of the Rose, Gigaplant is totally live, because then you can just Foolish Burial the Lone Fire Blossom. So I'm feeling pretty good at this point. You know, our hand, which started out not great, has really put us in a position where just one card is going to give us the world, so to speak. Here our opponent is going to go ahead and summon out Plague, and then get in for damage and over our tokens, clearing our board. So of course we are going to be relying on Mark of the Rose. If we do draw Gigaplant, the rest of those starters are still pretty valid. Here he is going to Synchro Summon for that Armory Arm and put it on Machina Fortress. This is going to prevent us from being able to Colossal Fighter Armory Arm OTK. I really like that play, and unfortunately we are not going to find our combo enabler. It looks like 66% really does round up to 100%, just not in our favor this time. I'm going to go ahead and Heavy Storm now, just to get that Armory Arm out of the way. That is some pretty scary stuff. And then we are going to Mark of the Rose the Machina Fortress at this point. He tries to DD Crow, but of course banishing is lost. So nice of him to let us know that we have a he has a Crow, and I guess he doesn't want to just keep it in his hand for nothing, so he goes ahead and Heavy Storms. You know, if he wants to pick it up, that's fine, but he said Heavy Storm, so we'll go with that. Here I am going to go ahead and Book of Moon to go ahead and keep the fortress forever. I see this is a simplified game state. Maybe he can't get anything going, especially with a Mirror Force. You know, if I can just keep this fortress on the field, that might be good enough to get us there. So I am going to set the Mirror Force. Not too worried about Gores because of that. He's going to pick up a Lightning Vortex. Not super helpful. We are going to go ahead and Foolish Burial to send a Dandelion and get 2 more tokens out, and then pass. We contribute those tokens for Titanial to start clearing through the board should we need to. And then we do find a hidden armory here, so I'm kicking myself for that Foolish Burial for Dandy. You know, if we had just done Lone Fire Blossom, we'd be in a far better position. But what can you do? You can only continue playing forward. So we are going to pass once again, and then here he's going to pick up a Torrential to go with his Mirror Force. He is going to go ahead and Lightning Vortex to clear out our field and then try and push in for game. And of course, we are going to hit that with Mirror Force. I think once he had the Torrential, he felt confident trying to make that push because, you know, we're probably not going to be able to crack back through a Torrential. And indeed, we are once again getting punished. Oh, I didn't even count Miracle Fertilizer. It was almost half of our deck that was combo there. And once again, I am kicking myself for Foolish Burialing that Dandelion. However, I don't want to be completely open. So we are going to go ahead and Foolish Burial to summon out the Dandelion. He's going to Lila, clear out the Fertilizer, milling 3, and then now we are finally going to find our way to Lone Fire Blossom. So we are just going to go ahead and normal summon it, get out the second Lone Fire, and then get out a Gigaplant. And then at this point, he is going to allow that through. No, maybe you want a Torrential here. It's definitely like a feels bad Torrential, but you know, once we get Supervised going, we are going to be in much better shape. We are going to tribute the Lone Fire, keeping the or tribute the Dandy, keeping Lone Fire on field, which that's another questionable play. That's definitely making us a lot worse into Torrential. And indeed, there the Torrential is going to hit and come down. So Gigaplant is going to stick around. We'll get in for 24, but it would have been nice to have the tokens alongside the Gigaplant. And then our opponent is going to top deck into a Smashing Ground, so definitely has all the side hate in the world. We're going to set that Dust Shoot and then pass to our opponent. He's going to find a Vanity's Fiend. Thank goodness he cannot summon that right now. We'll upstart and find our way into DDR. And then just pass the turn once again. He'll pick up a Heavy Storm. We'll pick up another Upstart. This time we're going to find Hidden Armory, which of course we are going to fire. Very happy to mill that SSN. That would have been a dead draw, and we'll pick a Supervise up out of our graveyard. Finally, our opponent does draw something real, so he's going to go ahead and Heavy Storm first. Totally happy to trade the Dust Shoot 1-for-1 for Heavy. He is going to Gear Frame to pick up a Machina Force, and then he's going to Machina Force for Machina Fortress and swing in for big damage. However, he is not going to have any defense, and it is not quite enough damage for game. No way to make Gaga Cowboy without 2 level 4s or in EDISON format. So we are going to get to go ahead and Mark of the Rose, banishing the Gigaplant, stealing the Machina Fortress, DDR, discarding Titanial, summoning out the Gigaplant, and we are going to go right into game number 3. Definitely a tough match so far here, and our opponent is opening Smashing Ground, and then I can see he's also sided in Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. I gotta be honest, folks, I do not think Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer is it. What is it, however, is Limiter Removal. That is a terrifying card that I am not happy to see in my opponent's grip. So we're gonna Upstart Goblin. We do find our way into Super Solar Nutrient, which is going to be very good for us. I'm thinking set Dandy to let him attack into the tokens, Book of Moon to prevent any shenanigans, so to speak. And then he is going to go ahead and Lila. He'll use Lila's effect. We're going to go ahead and Book of Moon the Lila. It's stuck in defense. That might be worse, but this means he is going to be leaving us with 1 token remaining after both of his monsters' attacks. You can Smashing Ground here. I think Smashing Ground here is probably correct, but that is a really hard play to see. You know, you really have to have a good knowledge of Gigavise. Like if they're setting Dandelion, they probably, on turn 1, no less, they probably have Super Solar Nutrient in hand, so leaving them a token like that is going to be really catastrophic. However, it's not going to matter anyways because we just pick up the Lone Fire Blossom. So good for us here. We are going to super solar early. I'm kind of thinking that Trunade plus fertilizer might be a little more useful long term, and so I would rather go ahead and have a little protection up my board. So I'm going to summon Titanial out first. That is going to be really nice into the Compulse, and then now we're going to be able to fertilizer, bring back the Lone Fire, and then we can giant Trunade should we need to. He's going to go ahead and fire the Compulse on our Titanial. And I am going to go ahead and negate that. Folks, I don't know. I think you probably just let that through. It's about the same in the hand as it is in the grave. But I guess I'm thinking that maybe I want to bring it back with Miracle Fertilizer. So we're going to go ahead and get out a Gigaplant. And then we are going to Miracle Fertilizer for a Lone Fire Blossom. We're going to run over the Haiku and the Lila. So clearing our opponent's board. And then main phase 2, we can go ahead and Lone Fire Blossom for Copy Plant. We're going to put a Power Tool Dragon in defense and get our guaranteed search for Supervise. Of course, I don't. I think when I made this play, I wasn't considering that both Gigaplants are in play, so this Lone Fire Blossom is actually kind of dead. So I think while I'm picking my cards, I realize, oh, I need to get a Mark of the Rose here, not a Supervise, because Mark of the Rose will just let us tribute summon the Machina Fortress at the very least. So he is going to pick up a Plague Spreader Zombie, which is a very powerful card, but I don't think it's going to help him win the game on this turn. You need to get another machine out. Instead, he is just going to swing for 400 and 25. And then he is going to continue to hold that limiter. But he is going to make Gotems and try and rip a card out of our hand. He does rip the Gigaplant successfully, so that's pretty good for him, especially because we do just draw it to Supervise. So if he'd left anything up on the field, that would have been game for sure. Instead, we are just going to go ahead and Lone Fire Blossom, and without any really great targets left in deck, we are just going to be forced to go for a Dandelion to put up some defense. And then our opponent is going to get a perfect draw of Machina Gear Frame, so very glad that I do have this defense up, especially looking at that Lumina removal. That is a scary prospect, folks. Here he is going to go ahead and Synchro Summon for a Flamvel Uruquezas. Is going to be a ton of damage right into us, piercing through the Dandelion and threatening to pierce through the tokens, so no longer feeling nearly as safe as I did. However, we get the fantastic top deck of Super Solar Nutrient, which will let us get Nettles, and then we are going to be able to Mark of the Rose to take the Flamvel Uruquezas. We can push in for big damage, and then main phase 2, we are going to be able to Synchro Summon for an 8, removing the Uruquezas from the field, and we do go for a defense position, Colossal Fighter. Just again, having something to wall up with, which is of course going to be useful because our opponent gets another fantastic top deck of Machina Fortress. So I will say the Machina matchup is a matchup that is a lot of fun. I think more often than not, games come down to these absolutely crazy swingy back and forths that are just decided by one clutch top deck. So here we actually hit an armory for DDR. I'm concerned about this back row. So it is true that if we had just gone Mark of the Rose, that would have been game, but instead I choose to go for DDR. I guess I'm wanting to combo and feeling a little unsafe. He asks if Colossal Axe activates in damage step, and that tells me that he just drew DD Crow. So a little bit of free information, and he is going to go ahead and scoop at that point. So, you know, seeing that we are going to be able to just DDR back to Gigaplant and combo next turn, we do get a look and see that it's limiter removal, which makes sense why he scooped. And then we also see that we're drawing another Supervise for turn. Doesn't matter because we're discarding it anyways, but that is going to be GG, well played. So shout out to our 3 Machina opponents. Shout out especially to Oscar Zelaya. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I will see you guys tomorrow with some more shameless, hype beast, Gigavise content. Take care, everyone.